I am tired because I can't sleep more than 4 hours in a night for some reason because I work overnights and that's just what happens to you. And I am cold because it has been negative 30 degrees with wind chill in Kansas City for 4 days now. And I am not in the mood for Stephen King, for Stephen King's BS, for Holly, for any of the anythings that have to do with this series. So we are here together, you and I, in order to go over the 9,000th episode in the Holly series because I am a moron and I decided to read this book. We have a So What Happened portion, a literary criticism portion, and a writer's corner portion of this video. So, what happened? Em and Roddy wake Bonnie and tell her they're going to eat her. This seems to be something of a breach of taste, but when you're talking about cannibals, I guess there is room for tastelessness. Then, Em wakes up in the middle of the night, absolutely positive that Holly is hot on their case, and retrieves, we're assuming, cyanide pills. Then Holly visits Mr. Anderson from the bowling league and leaves convinced that Roddy is aiding and abetting the actual killer. She also visits her uncle, I believe it is, and she's kind of a snot because this character is kind of a snot. Holly yells at her uncle. Olivia dies. Who cares? Could have been a really nice meta sort of relationship for this book, but we don't really get that. Never did. She just died. Some other stuff happened. A lot of other stuff happened. None of it really mattered. Apparently, they ate Bonnie, Em and Roddy. No one else. No funny business going on. Just the people eating people who were supposed to eat people. And then Holly bits and pieces together a whole lot of stuff and decides to go ahead and pay Em and Roddy another visit, but not an official visit. She's going to spy on them. She breaks in to their garage and sees that, yes, there is... So Roddy had spotted her some time before she actually got to the house. So, I'm not real sure how this all worked out. Maybe I was just too angry when reading it. Doesn't matter. Because Holly did break in. Holly did find the van. And then Em feigned injury and was crying for help. The way that Holly had assumed Em was getting the victims in the first place. Let me repeat that. Em, in her own house, laid on the ground and pretended to be injured, screaming for help. The way that Holly knew was probably the way that Em and Roddy and whoever this killer was were getting their victims. So Holly decided to check it out. You tell me. I don't know why. Of course, she's sassy and snarky when she does it, and decides, no, it's okay. I'm just going to do. So she does there essentially what supervillains normally do, and decides to grandstand during the climactic moment. And Em decides to pull a taser on her, so Holly pulls a gun, and then Roddy tases Holly from the back. Thing 1 and Thing 2 is what their tasers are named. But don't you know, Stevie? Dr. Seuss has been canceled. You can't use phrases from Dr. Seuss. So now the two of them have Holly. So apparently, tasing Holly knocked her out. I guess. It's not what tasers do, unless it's some kind of special taser. But anyway, Holly is unconscious, and they have her in their grasp. So I have had a cough for approximately 3.5 years, as long as I've been making videos on this godforsaken book. So the number one thing that I have to talk about in the literary criticism section is something that really angers me, something that just boils my blood. You know what? No, it doesn't. It doesn't boil my blood. I am thankful to Mr. King. This is what I needed. Remember earlier I mentioned I was from Kansas City. On page 349, we have a character. This is in the letter about Jorge Castro. I was the one who wanted to leave. This was his friend talking about how he wanted to leave, but Jorge wanted to stay, and Jorge's the one that disappeared. He says of Jorge, I was the one who wanted to leave. I got very tired of the Midwestern homophobia. Thank God we have Stephen King here. Because gosh, us country bumpkins, we wouldn't know what to do with the gays. You know, the other day I was on my way to work after reading this book, and I saw a big old parade of gay hating. Just hating gays. I always thought that was all right. So I stopped and I rolled the window down, and I said, "Hey, Jed, did you know this wrong?" He looked at me, kind of funny, and he says to me, he says, "What's wrong?" And I says, "Hating gays for being gay." And he said, "Well, gosh, well, I suppose I never thought about it. Not like that, at least. There's no homophobia in the Northeast. We need this nor'eastern wisdom from Stephen King spread lightly across the Midwest, like the heavy snows we just had. That nor'eastern wisdom." Stephen King, kick off, will you? 356. On the way out of the office, okay, so this is Holly going to investigate. On the way out of the office, she thinks of an ad she's seen on TV. Teenagers are running from a guy who looks like Leatherface. One suggests hiding in the attic, another in the basement. The third says, "Why can't we just get in the running car?" and points to it. The fourth, her boyfriend, says, "Are you crazy? Let's get behind the chainsaws." So they do. An announcer intones, "When you're in a horror movie, you make poor decisions." Holly isn't in a horror movie, though, and she tells herself she isn't making a poor decision. She has her spray, and if she needs it, she has Bill's gun. This was a real commercial. Probably you remember it. I believe they played it during the Super Bowl in 2018, 2019. It was in 2019 for the 2018 season, the one the Kansas City Chiefs won against the 49ers. I believe that commercial played during that Super Bowl. Maybe it was a later Super Bowl. I can't remember. Steven, I know you're watching this because I'm that important. If you have gotten to the point in your literary career where you have to write about Geico commercials, you have to implant Geico commercials to your story, it's done. Retire. It's a Geico commercial. It's good for a sensible grin. It's good for a nice chuckle. You don't need to repeat it in a novel. It's a Geico commercial for the love of Christ. Finally, the only writer's corner note that I have is from page 359. It is a section that reads as such. A great deal of the time, he's as sharp and on point as ever. This is of Roddy. A great deal of the time, he's as sharp and on point as ever. Sometimes he thinks of himself as a passenger in a plane flying over a clear landscape at low altitude. Then, the plane goes into a cloud and everything is gray. You hold on to your armrests and wait out the bumps. When questions are asked, you smile and look wise instead of answering. Then the plane flies out of the cloud. The landscape is clear again, and all the facts are at your fingertips. This is really good writing. This is an insightful moment from Roddy thinking about his condition that came on kind of suddenly in the book, but we're not going to blame Stephen King for that at this point. This is a really good paragraph. This is the type of paragraph that used to litter Stephen King books. It really did. These weird little insights to a person's disposition, strange little insights to a person's actual point of view instead of just black or white points of view, right, that we have in this book. It's kind of sad, actually. This is Stephen King's writing. Stephen King's writing is like that plane. There have been moments in this book. There were small moments in Fairy Tale. I am going to attribute Fairy Tales not working for me to the fact that I'm not really a fantasy reader. So I'm going to assume part of the allure of Fairy Tale just wasn't there for me because of my own readership. Here, it's not the case. I am not against this type of book. I've read plenty of this type of book. Horror books, detective books, things like that. Literary fiction. There's not really much supernatural going on here. This is just bad. It's bland. Now, with Holly's capture, we do get something that is a little bit different than what I was expecting from this novel. Maybe Holly will get murdered. That would be cool. It would prevent a sequel. So we would have that, at least. But Stephen King, just like Roddy is describing here, is able to, at times, snap his fingers and have really good writing going on in his books again. Most of this is just schlock. Most of this is just bad. Most of this has been just very boring. So, look, what is wrong with my hair? This book sucks so far. We are getting to the point where if it's going to turn around, it has to turn around. The next set of reading begins on 373. There are 446 pages in this book. So if it's going to pick up, it doesn't have a whole lot of time left. But I wonder if this works for anyone else. I wonder if there is something here for someone. Surely. I mean, I met the guy in the Starbucks who went on at length, ad nauseum, I would say, about how sick and twisted this gets. This doesn't get sick and twisted, not yet. We've got a few pages. We got, 40 pages, 50 pages, 60 pages maybe. I don't remember. I just read the numbers and I don't care enough to remember them. If you want sick and twisted, read Thomas Harris. If you want sick and twisted, read the Hannibal Lecter novels. This isn't sick and twisted. This is just boring. This is ad nauseum. You should have called the book Ad Nauseum. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do on the channel, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about. So consider hitting the subscribe button to stick around for more. I hope to have you back for the next one.